Carl and Liam here from Brrraaains A Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial for short. It is getting Goosebumps Season 3, Episode 19, 20, and 21. This is a three-part mini-series called Trilogy, split into three different stories that all coincide and link in together to create the overall trilogy episode. We decided we weren't going to split them into three separate videos. We were going to do them as one because of how they all connect to each other. It felt more sensible to do it that way. And this first one has a title of Squeal of Fortune. They all have their own individual titles as well. Trilogy, Squeal of Fortune, Trilogy, and so on and so forth. This was directed by the regular Goosebumps director, William Fruitt, and written by Billy Brown and Dan Angel, which I presume this stuff was written before they left the show following the fallout of Werewolf Skin. So it's probably in the bag, basically. It is also not based on any book or short story. So that is a first. Wow. We have something here that is literally brand new, not based on anything Goosebumps R.L. Stine did.
That's really, really strange, isn't it? You'd expect it to be based on some sort of spin-off short story or something. How odd.
Indeed, because you would have thought, yeah, okay, this is a short story a world that he would return to several times across some of their tales to give you goosebumps and more goosebumps and so on. But apparently not, just an original idea, which I will praise then the fact that I would never have known that watching it. I would have easily believed this was very R.L. Stine based on what we'd seen.
Exactly, that's what I just assumed. I assumed it was based on some kind of book by R.L. Stine. But yeah, that's quite interesting. I wonder how that came about. What's the story behind that?
I can't help but feel, considering we are at the penultimate section of season 3, that we've talked about it with some of the other episodes. Ideas are light. Season 3 has been heavy on short stories adapted, and obviously season 4 only has 4 episodes, although they're all 2-parters, 8 overall, but it's 4 stories. So you kind of see the writings on the wall.
Yeah, just starting to run out of ideas at this point. They're probably like, you know what, we can probably make up a story that's kind of like an R.L. Stine Goosebumps book. And as you said, I think they did a pretty good job. It does kind of blend in quite nicely.
Yes, and talking about the overall three episodes, not this one specifically, I would say the only reason to watch this is for one particular actor who has done this classic thing in Goosebumps of going, right, this is trash, this is nonsense. I'm just going to play it as over the top, wacky, cheesy, silly as possible, and that's what people will remember. And it's all I'll bloody remember. I am, of course, talking about Daniel Cash, who plays Carl in it. He shares my name.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because like we've mentioned about how, I mean, every time we review one of these episodes, we're always highlighting an adult actor who's played it super eccentric, and we always highlight them as being one of the major highlights of the episodes. So I wonder, like, what's the story behind that? These adult actors brought in and were they given directions, to ham it up a little bit? Or did they just themselves, like you say, take it, be like, this is a kid's show, I'm going to just deliver it in this certain way? I wonder if that's how it went, because it seems like all the adult actors played it that way.
It would need a really deep dive to find a connection between directors and the adult cast who play it this way. So is there a link potentially where William Fruitt's cast were often the ones that were more eccentric and odd and elements like that?
No, that's true. Also, do you remember this one at all? Have you memories of seeing it?
Never saw it. Definitely
No
never
way.
saw this one. Nothing triggered in my head. I'm 99% sure this latter portion of season 3. So going back to Say Cheese and Die Again, Strained Peas, I don't think I ever made it this far.
I'm surprised, man. For me, again, this is like another one that's just burned into my brain for all eternity. The whole Carlsville fiasco. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, the other cast, predominantly across the 3 episodes, but major ones for this one, we have Katrina Scazzone as Jessica Walters, Gil Filler as Sam Walters, Maggie Holkluck as Sharon Walters, Melanie Nicholas King as Teresa Erickson, Warren Bennis as Matthew Erickson, Neil Dennis as Todd Erickson, Courtney Henry as Nikki, Diane Douglas as Mrs. Chiller, Derek Kuvrost as Mr. Bleak, Paul Emily Frappier as Mr. Killman, and Tracy Dawson as Mother. And that's they're the people who all get speaking lines. Couple of little tidbits here. Obviously, the title of this episode is a spoof of the game show Wheel of Fortune, being Squeal of Fortune. Don't need to be a genius to work that out. One of the shops in Carlsville is named after the Cuckoo Clock of Doom. Lots of little things in Carlsville overall, actually, if you pay attention.
Yeah.
And did you recognize Katrina Escazone, who plays Jessica Waters, the main girl in this? Because she also played another character all the way back in season 1. Did you recognize who she was?
No, I did recognize it, but I couldn't put my finger on exactly who.
She played Sarah Kramer in Night of the Living Dummy 2. So,
That's probably why I couldn't like put my finger on it, because those episodes are quite forgettable.
It's also years ago in regards to like as a young girl, a teenager, years changing quite significantly.
Also, probably like years ago in terms of us doing these videos as well.
Actually, yeah, season 1. Yeah, considering, how many that episodes, this is what? We're up to the 60 odd episode here. So yes, for sure. Okay, it's a dark night in what looks like an abandoned town or a horror haunt, I thought, designed to look like a town. I got that feel where it was like, oh, this could be a One Day at Horrorland theme thing. And obviously that plays into when you see the sort of scary names for the shops and the sound effects we're actually hearing too. But we focus on like what I thought was like, is that like a living model that kind of looks like a doll, kind of plasticky face, who declares that Carlsville is open, time to play, before laughing maniacally and the camera panning out to reveal that it's a model town in someone's house. So yeah, I'm always, I don't know, it always makes me think of Beetlejuice, but the whole model town thing, I was kind of like, I don't know, I think when I was younger, I really wanted stuff like that.
Yeah, I always drew comparisons to Beetlejuice. I don't know why, just because it has that one scene where he's in the little model town. For some reason, you always go back to that. But I always thought it was a really cool idea for a Goosebumps story anyway, this whole model town and the possibility of being like sucked into it and all that. You know, I thought that was actually a pretty cool idea. And the model itself throughout the episodes and stuff, they show it off really quite well. And it's a really cool looking model of a town, sort of thing that I always kind of wanted. I wish I had as I was a kid, you know, but alas.
Alas, indeed. But I also agree with you. I think the concept is sound as hell, and both the model look and when we actually go into the town, it all looks significantly decent, like location-wise.
I think it's a little bit of an underutilized idea. You don't really see it used in many other things. Like you said, all you can think of is Beetlejuice, but no one else. Maybe it could be used in some other way, another type of movie or something. Never really see it used, but there you go.
In a full-on horror slasher or something, yeah.
Yeah.
The next day, a young girl named Jessica is listening to music, walking past the yard sale. 2 young boys named Todd and Matthew see her coming along and basically freak out, taking her baseball cards and hiding them. She comes along and they pretend they've sold everything, so she suggests buying the desk instead. They try to play her off, but her mother says, look, it is for sale, which then prompts the boy to agree to sell her some of their cards. And it appears basically this whole behavior is because she's an insane haggler, a money saver, an over-the-top money-saving person, as she basically lowballs them and gets her way very easily. So, you know, remember, folks, Goosebumps often has a moral, and this trilogy, each one has a heavy-handed moral.
These cards are in mint condition.
That's great. How much are these books, Sarah?
Strawberry. My favorite flavor. I'll give you $2 for it.
$2.
Yeah, it really focuses on them, and that's like a big aspect of what the episodes are about. It's almost like watching old school The Simpsons or something.
Oh my, yes, good call. Back at home, they gotta go further into the super saver thing. She's constantly looking away to earn money, including having files and stocks. Her brother Sam comes along and asks to borrow some money so he can buy his mother a nice present. She refuses and starts to berate him for his lack of money skills, but agrees to lend them the money with interest. So basically a loan. And yeah. So they're really hammering his home. She refuses. He leaves, and her mother comes in telling Jessica to sweep the attic, otherwise Sam gets her allowance for the week, which Jessica rightfully says, that's really unfair. I'm like, yeah, what? That's well unfair. That mother's like, oh, give him the money. Or basically, he'll get your allowance if you don't sweep the attic. It's like, that's not really fair. It's very favoritism, isn't it?
Yeah, I can see it from that perspective, but I guess she pulls this kind of stuff all the time, so she's probably just trying to take it down a peg. She seems like the kind of person that does need to be taken down a peg or two, so I didn't mind it.
Yeah, no, fair point, fair point. So forced to do it, she goes upstairs to the biggest attic ever. I've not seen an attic this big outside of Night of the Living Dummy 3. It is a house in itself.
What is it about American houses, man? They always got these massive attics, massive basements, and they're always like really huge anyway. In general, it's like compared to like some of the normal houses you see in England and stuff in horror movies and whatever. They always have these massive mansion-like houses that have like 10 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and yeah, basement attics. Crazy.
You've got that giant attic, which drove me nuts about this one, because Night of the Living Dummy 3 at least used it. This one, it's just like, it's that big and it's just an attic. You're not using it and turning it and transforming it into something like a games room or something.
Yeah, people just use it to store their old trash in there instead.
While sweeping then, she bumps into the model town. And this was odd because she turns to it and it's like she's seeing it for the first time. And I was like, huh? No, I sort of wonder, like, okay, so they just moved in, but you don't get that idea that they've just moved in. So really no one's noticed this, or she hasn't seen it. She's not gone up to the attic before.
That's a good point, actually, because I got that sense of, oh, okay, they must have just moved into this house, but the way they've been acting, her, the way she's going around the streets and all that, and just everything doesn't really add up to that. So, yeah, weird.
It gets weirder as well because her mother also has the same reaction when she gets called upstairs, having seemingly seen it for the first time. But before that, Jessica notices a stamp on it on the side of one of the buildings that suggests it's, or the model, should I say, that it's a collector's edition. And obviously she sees dollar signs. So she calls her mother up and basically asks to keep it so that she can sell it. Her mother says she can keep it, but she can't sell it. That's the agreement. So that's how we get here. We do see there's a scene where we get an angle from Carlsville with the living dummy model look, and they're sort of standing above it. I thought that was a particularly impressive effect for its time.
Yeah, that's true.
Her mother leaves and a phone rings, making Jessica think it's hers, but it's a phone from the town of Carlsville. She reaches in, touches the booth, and is sucked into the town. So that's how we get her in. I'm fine with this. I don't really care about any sort of logistics or sense behind people getting sucked in. It's just whatever you need. You need to get there, do it. It's a magical freaking model town.
Yeah, they don't actually explain how that works or, why certain things suck you in and certain things get you out. But like you said, it's just a means to an end, really, isn't it?
That's it. Yeah, absolutely.
What is this place? Oh.
In the town, the phone continues to ring, so she answers it, and Carl, the living model, answers, telling her where she is and that she has a big opportunity. He tells her to step inside and look for it before hanging up. So Jessica goes exploring the town, and it seems pretty deserted, a little bit weird, but eventually runs into Carl, who now looks more human. That living model thing is gone. He looks like a normal dude. Here, he introduces himself and tells her that he owns the town and is a businessman. He tells her that he's looking for a business partner and shows her a lemonade stand as an opportunity. Now, Jessica, because when this happened, I was like, oh, wow, big things in plan here. And Jessica rightfully also agrees with me because she's like, are you kidding me? That's super small fry. But he makes a point, look, start small and grow from there. So it works, selling lemonade, it feels very much in tune to what I guess kids would be doing anyway.
Yeah, also, you're so lucky, man. You missed a very important line that Carl says, as your name is Carl, as well. He introduces himself by saying that his name is Carl and that his friends call him Carl. And, like, you could use that, man. You could use that and everyone would know. They'd be like, oh, that's from Goosebumps. And you'd be the coolest guy in the room, then.
Oh, dear God. Oh, dear God. If I wrote down every funny or amusing or silly line that Carl delivers, because this first one is not his strongest. I mean, he's going to get madder as this goes on.
I don't know about you, though. Also, I was getting major stranger danger vibes immediately from this situation. She's just been sucked into this weird town. She's meeting this weird guy. He's putting his arm around her and he's taking her to his lemonade stand. And it's just like a weird situation, and she is just going along with it way too much. And I just think, considering she's portrayed as being quite a smart character throughout, what she's supposed to be, yeah, bit dumb.
She does take it way too much in her stride. And I don't care. You can say, oh, but she's obsessed with money and all that kind of thing. That doesn't fly. She's too old to just go, all right.
This is clearly a weird guy as well.
Yes,
So.
yes, indeed. Particularly he offers her a special kind of lemonade called Carl's Lemonade, which even has its own jingle, which made me laugh. That's the shit I like.
I like that little bit of extra added effort, to add in something like that. That's cool.
This isn't just any lemonade.
You got it made in the shade with Carl's Lemonade.
It's my own special blend. People can't resist it. You'll make a fortune.
I also really like Jessica and Carl's bartering here, where she eventually agrees to sell the lemonade, provided she gets 50% of the profits. That Carl ends up agreeing. They've got some good back and forth. Weirdly enough, these two together have the best chemistry of all the kids that will deal with Carl across the show.
Yeah, definitely. And I thought the set and stuff, because obviously they're trying to make it look like she was sucked into the town. There's a lot of signs they put up and props. I mean, you get the sense that she's been transported into this different world, even though it's obvious that they've just used like this, almost like it looks like an abandoned industrial estate or something, and they put all this stuff around. But yeah.
I agree. I remember in my head thinking back, and I probably watched this episode at the time of recording a few weeks back. I can actually picture the street, the signs, the locations, the lemonade stand, and all of that like quite clearly, which I think is quite impressive.
Yeah, and they put like a little bit of effort in there to make it feel like it's a different world, and the way all the actors are made up, I like how they're made up to look like them little figurines come to life and stuff. So they definitely put in a bit of effort, which is always appreciated.
Agreed, because there's always something a little bit off, like a little bit off about the characters, and like that starts with the lemonade stand employee Nikki, who's kind of like a young kid, and you do have this kind of shine, like almost like a shine to his the skin that just makes him look not real. So Carl orders her to do everything Jessica wants before leaving with a warning: don't raise the prices, basically, don't get greedy. And away from Jessica, we then see him turning up a thermostat to make it hotter. And hit like this is where you nail it. This is where the cheese really starts to come out, man. It's the delivery of the lines. He almost looks at the camera directly while saying this stuff as well. So like, I know some people will hate it. I really get that because of how just like on the nose cheesy villainous it is. But it's Goosebumps. I'm so deep into this now that this level of just silliness just works better for me.
Time to turn up the heat.
Yeah, I think there's two types of Goosebumps episodes. Ones that do lean towards more a sinister edge, and then there's these more fun sort of eccentric ones that are, just an enjoyable ride, and I think it does nail that vibe of the eccentricity quite well. So I was enjoying it.
Agreed. So Jessica starts to speak to some of the residents and sell them a lemonade. Seeing that people really like it, Jessica starts to behave unscrupulously, telling Nikki to pour less lemonade in the glasses. So first, basically give them less for what they're paying. It's not long before she then gets the idea of doubling the prices, and there's more and more praise the quality of the drink. She continues to raise the price. Nikki, uncomfortable with this, suggests it's not a good idea, but Jessica points out the supply and demand system. So greed is getting the better of her here, and the townspeople are getting extremely demanding for the lemonade.
I don't know if you noticed quite a subtle little line that is said during the segment, but one of the guys who suggests that she could charge twice the price for the lemonade, and he says like twice the price, and it like echoes through her mind. As he's walking away after, really quite quietly, he says, "Good day, human," as he walks away.
Oh,
Yeah.
I missed that. Good
Thought I was really like
catch.
clever to put that in there. Yeah.
Yeah, I really missed that. Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Good day, Gilman.
Jessica's next idea: water down the lemonade. And I was admittedly like, I was like, man, this girl does get capitalism. She does get business. She does get how to cut corners. You know, credit where credit's due. It's unscrupulous, but she knows what she's doing.
Yep. Yep.
As the temperature rises, more and more people come to the stand, and things are getting quite chaotic for the pair. Jessica, though, is completely overjoyed by the cash coming in. Nikki is more worried that the people are becoming quite animalistic in the desire for more lemonade. And then we hit where Jessica's greed completely gets the better of her, deciding to hide the remaining lemonade, and tells the crowd that they only have one glass of it left, which starts, of course, a frantic bidding war with offers coming in, high offers. And yeah, you kind of know this is where it goes wrong.
And it was at this point that I came to realize that the secret blend in Carl's lemonade is definitely cocaine.
There's something going on there. There's something going on in that lemonade. However, in the rush to get the drink, one of the customers knocks over the jug of lemonade she was hiding, revealing to everyone that she was lying. And if you thought, okay, well, look, it's a bit silly, it's a bit cheesy, but this episode has kind of followed a straightforward structure narrative with a moral and a clear direction to how it gets to the end. It's about to just go off the rails now in what has to be just a moment of wackiness and oddity, and dare I say, impressive effects as well, that I couldn't help but just enjoy it.
What are you doing? Just listen.
I'll give you $10.
Make it 20.
25!
80.
35! 50!
100.
So they realized that she was lying to them, and they turn on her, declaring that she's a greedy little pig, which for some reason causes Jessica to transform into a pig human hybrid. And this is done with a costume, and a very good costume as well. I liked it.
Yeah, it looks great, and I praised before how the townspeople look and they're made up and everything. I thought the costume department and stuff they did a really bang up job basically throughout these 3 episodes. You know, good job.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But it's not my fault. Carl set me up.
Carl?
The man who owns the town.
Carl could help.
Of course he could.
Carl loves bacon. Carl! Get the pig.
Pig Jessica takes the box of money and tries to run away, but she is surrounded. She then blames Carl, and the townspeople, in almost a worshipping kind of way, call for him, where he appears on a roof and demands that they all get the pig. He's a proper, like, supervillain standing on a roof, pointing and going, "Go, my pretties, go." Yes, fun. Jessica runs away with him. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say also, like, that's just the scene of the incensed townspeople chasing after her as a pig. Basically, they're like wanting to consume her and stuff like that. It's pretty freaky, you know, for like a kids show.
I did get the strong sense, because of the actors and sort of energy in this sequence, that if you wanted me to believe that they want to murder her and rip her apart, that it was going to happen. Like, that's the energy I got from it.
Yeah, no, they went for it, man.
Agreed. And she runs away with the mob in pursuit as Carl laughs maniacally. She hides and then finally takes in what she is transformed into. She actually fully notices now what she looks like. Carl appears, revealing to her via a mirror that she also has a pig face, and he laughs as she runs away. Notably that she remembered to take the money too, so she still can't quite shake off the greed thing. She's still making sure to grab the money. As she runs, she falls into a puddle of muck. Carl is everywhere she is, and the mob begin to catch up with her. So you do get a lot of like this frantic energy, quick cuts, her running in fear, desperate. The falling into the mud to add that layer to the sort of piggishness is a nice touch too.
Mm-hmm.
The chase continues through the town, so she stops and throws the money in the air, causing the townspeople to go crazy for it instead. She gets to the phone booth. She first tries to call 911, but that doesn't work, particularly as well she's got hoofs. so struggles to press the buttons, which is a good touch. And she then sees a sign suggesting that she can make a long-distance call back home. She manages to dial the number with those hoofs. Don't know how she did it, but she manages. But the number is engaged, so instead she calls her mobile phone. So we kind of get this frantic kind of finale where she's in the phone booth. The townspeople are gaining on her. She's trying to get someone to answer. It's basically Matrix stuff. Pick up the phone and you'll get zoomed back out.
I'm glad you picked up on that, because I was going to throw out there that I think this whole phone transporting you thing, they ripped that off, man. Big time. Yeah, the Wachowski, yeah, they definitely ripped it off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jessica. Hello?
Back in the attic, it rings. Her phone rings, but no one is there to answer it. The townspeople have now surrounded the phone booth and trying to get at her. At home, Sam hears the phone and comes to the model. He picks it up after calling for Jessica and answers it. As Jessica is dragged out of the phone booth, the caller teleports her back to the attic and she lands on Sam, human again, so she's managed to escape. Listen, I could get pedantic about why Carl would even put an escape route out of the town into it, but hey, we have to have an ending. She thanks and hugs Sam before getting him to help her take the model outside into the bins. Sam is dead against it and declares that he wants it. She agrees to give it and provided he sell it right back to her. That way he can get the money he wanted for the present. He agrees and Jessica is able to leave the town out by the bins. I was just like, I mean, I'm sure like just by the bins, no one is just going to come along and say, hey, that's being thrown away. I'll take that. You know what I mean? Like, it's a pretty dumb idea.
Definitely. I mean, this really annoyed me, actually, this ending where she just dumps it by the bins. I could go on a massive rant about it, which well, a little bit, but not too much. But yeah, just that idea of her dumping it at the curb of what just happened is complete nonsense. They portrayed her, again, as I mentioned, as quite a smart person throughout. And that's what she does. Literally, it's a magical model town, and she just throws it away. I mean, for one thing, that's profit potentially right there. But also what she went through, clearly she wasn't freaked out enough. She just frivolously just throws it away without ensuring it's properly destroyed. Yeah, I thought it was pretty ridiculous. I mean, like, so you could dig into the whole her getting out of the town is kind of like, just how does that really happen? You just have to kind of accept it, but then to go on to this with her just being like, you know what, throw it to the curb, whatever. Pretty dumb.
Hey, look at this. Wow, why would anyone throw this away? Hey, grab the other end.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
100% agree. It kind of makes the experience feel lesser because she's so easily able to just move on from it very quickly, but also because of how she just chooses to dispose of it, it's inevitably going to be picked up. Ultimately, I think they wanted to express more than anything else with that she had learned her lesson, hence why she's willing to give Sam the money. And that's the moral, is don't be a greedy little pig, you know. Generosity goes so far, which is fine. It's an important message for young people.
Yeah, and I thought the whole scenario with the lemon stand and her ripping off the people and stuff, I thought it was, there's a good message in there for sure.
It is. It is. It's the only one of the three with a message like to this degree, to this on the nose, I think. But unsurprisingly, as night falls, Matthew and Todd, the two kids from the start, who I thought were irrelevant initially, come along, walking by and see, can you believe it, the model town, and figure, hey, that's going to be worth taking, so they take it. And as they walk off, we see Carl laughing and saying, no more Mr. Nice Guy, and we get a to be continued. And that's how the first part of this trilogy ends.
Indeed.
Okay, which brings us to part 2. Strike 3, you are doomed. This is the 20th episode of season 3 of the Goosebumps TV series. Also directed by William Frewer, of course, and written by Billy Brown and Dan Angel. Major cast is all pretty much the same as we touched upon at the start of the other. A little bit smaller this time, but everyone is in it. There are some more notable facts about this specific episode. If you look at Matthew Erickson's bookshelf, it's quite visible in a lot of shops. They're filled with Goosebumps books, including titles that you can actually read. Some of the more obvious ones are Shocker and Sock Street and Diary of a Mad Mummy.
Oh, that's cool.
And the umpire, when we get to the baseball field, the umpire is played by series editor Robert K. Sproggius. So you do kind of get these every so often where people who are heavily involved in the show but backstage just appear in small roles.
Nice touch.
Indeed, indeed. So this is a continuation. It's not a separate episode per se. We now focus on Matthew, who's getting ready for his baseball game, something he is less than thrilled about as he seems to spend all his time on the bench. And we see that the model town is now in his room. Matthew takes his bat, uses it as a mic, and pretends to hit a championship-winning home run. And we then see that the town of Carlsville has its own baseball field. So this is kind of the early setup. Baseball is going to play a major part of this. Matthew's lack of confidence and the fact that he may not actually be a good baseball player. And obviously, by focusing on the baseball field in Carlsville, you can kind of see where we're going in this. And I'm fine with it. Again, we need a setup, and we've got one.
Yep.
At the game, Matthew is on the bench and the opposite team coach calls a timeout. He then talks to Matthew's team coach and points out that the boy needs to play and that it's supposed to be helping the kids. The umpire agrees and tells them that the team will forfeit the match if Matthew doesn't play. The coach is not happy, declaring that if you put Matthew on, they will lose. And as this scene, right, is so unusual in regards to the fact that it doesn't actually really feel like it fits in the grand scheme of Matthew's story. But what it does do is serve as a brilliant reminder of where children's baseball and these sort of games can often be taken incredibly seriously by the adults involved. And the fact that they have to use a reminder, the opposite team's coach has to remind Matthew's coach that the idea of these games are for the kids and they're supposed to be playing and enjoying it, and you have to put them on because that's the rules. Everybody has to play. I was like, damn, that's good. And I don't know why I like that so much. It just felt like an important message.
It did. And something interesting in this episode particularly, and it's the parents in this episode, because throughout these videos I've always highlighted terrible parenting in Goosebumps, something we've made lots of jokes about. But I actually thought the parents in this episode were surprisingly good, quite supportive of him. They're trying to support him in that moment during the game and stuff like that, and they're not completely absent, which is just that alone makes them probably up there as potentially the best parents in Goosebumps the whole run, man.
Good shout, because whereas Jessica's mother was in one or two scenes and really just there to move the plot along, it does feel like Matthew's parents are an integral part of this in regards to building up his confidence and making him feel important and pointing out that, hey, if you're not good at one particular thing, everybody's good at something. You are right. It's a rare turn because, as you say, normally that it's either terrible parenting or you just a background character.
Yeah, and they just come across as very normal, which for Goosebumps that's insane, really. For Goosebumps.
Yes, normal. That is insane. So yeah, the coach has no choice but to call Matthew up the bat, and everyone, including Matthew, is shocked. The coach's advice: close your eyes, maybe you'll get lucky. And I was just like, what a prick. Also, like, I think there's no worse advice in a game like baseball than about closing your eyes. I'm pretty sure that's the worst advice you could probably have when a ball is coming towards you.
And Erickson, do me a favor. Close your eyes. Maybe you'll get lucky.
Up to bat, the pitcher mocks him and Matthew strikes out, meaning to lose the game. That was excellent, because you almost feel like this is designed for him to either get a home run or at least hit it and all that. And in fact, he doesn't. He just immediately gets 3 strikes. He's out and they lose the game. And he's comforted by his parents, but obviously he's not exactly in the mood, But yeah, again, felt like, all right, cool. I like what they're doing here.
Yeah.
That evening at dinner, Matthew is downbeat as we see Todd scratching a scratch card for some reason. Matthew asks, that... Right. Oh my God. I'm going to stop myself out. I wrote, that was really weird. But now I just realized I wrote these notes watching this through. This is going to connect to the third part of it. I've just realized that.
Hmm. Yeah.
Matthew asks to be excused and is allowed to leave the table. The music here is a little too melodramatic for my liking. They're kind of laying it on a bit thick that he's sad, that he isn't. Basically, here's the thing. You didn't just lose. You're clearly not very good at baseball, and you know you're not good at baseball. So why the hell are you playing baseball?
Hmm.
Go play
Yeah.
something else. There's going to be other options.
I think it's just supposed to be like that's something he's really interested in because he has the baseball card at the beginning where he gets ripped off for that, and then in the first episode, and yeah, I guess it's just one of his interests. But sometimes you're just not good at something, man. Pursue something else.
That's it. That's it. I'm very interested in singing. I'm very interested in music creation and melody and all that kind of thing. Absolutely love it. But I can't do it. I can't sing. I'm not a musician. So, and I don't plan to start trying because I know I'd be crap at it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Hmm.
In his room, Matthew reflects on his crapness as his father comes in and talks about trying regardless of failure. And this is, I think, what you were getting at, a good example of just real, solid, good parenting.
Yeah, it's unseen in Goosebumps. that scene, it felt really like out of place almost, which makes so much sense now that you said this wasn't written by R.L. Stein.
Of course, going back to that, yes, of course. Amazing. But it does age itself here by he suggests come downstairs, watch a video we've rented. And it's like, whoa, there we're going back a bit.
Those were the days.
Those were the days. Wonder we got it from Blockbuster. But Matthew doesn't want to. Before he leaves, his father reminds him that he's good at lots of things, and baseball isn't the most important thing in the world. Best dad and Goosebumps ever. So then we have Matthew tossing a ball in the air, and the ball just goes flying out of his hand and then shrinks down and goes into the model town. He then hears an intercom stating that he's up to bat. And looking at the town, he notices the baseball field and sees a sign describing it as Carlsville League. It's a whole new ball game. Looking for his lost ball, he sees it, small and bouncing on the field, so reaches down to get it, which results in him being sucked into the town. He now finds himself on the baseball field.
And now up to bat, Matthew Erickson.
Carlsville League. It's a whole new ballgame.
Right, I wanted to get all that out quickly, just get him into the town, so then we can reflect a little bit on this. This I did not get. Now, in the first episode, I said, fine, we need a reason to get him in, right? Here, obviously, touch is important. Touch something you get sucked in because he touches the baseball sign here. But that does not explain how the ball shrinks down, how it's able to be sucked into the model, and that aspect of it. This is one of those where I feel like, all right, you never really had any sensible explanation yourself, so you didn't bother writing one. And I noticed it here because I also didn't get it at first because the ball is, because it's effects as well, the ball just goes zoom. And I was like, huh? What's that about? I don't know.
Yeah, I think as this whole concept goes along throughout these 3 episodes, the questions and inconsistencies start to like mount up a bit. Where you're like, yeah, this doesn't add up, or something. Maybe something needs to be explained here, but it doesn't really give you anything, does it?
No, it doesn't. But it's okay. The episode is going to make up for it now as Carl is here. And this is Carl at his absolutely hilarious best. He's dressed as a coach. And he's doing a very cheesy version of a coach. He almost at times looking away from Matthew wistfully at the sky. You almost feel like, if you've ever seen like these inspiring movies about sports, whether it, about a sports team that did something amazing and they do a film about it and it's all melodramatic and over the top and beautiful and stuff like that. That's how I feel he's playing this role. Like he's in one of those movies where he's just looking to the distance going, yeah, baseball, it'll change your life. And like that, it's just brilliant.
Yeah, you can tell the guy playing him is just having the best time in the world. And you kind of, it like, because as the viewer, because he's having such a good time, it makes you have a good time, which is never a bad thing.
Yes, because he will play several characters in this scene, and that's what really makes it good as we get to that. But he tells Matthew he's here, he's up to play. Carl tells him where he is, and tonight is the big game for the Carlsville Crunchers. That is the name of the team, the Carlsville Crunchers. Carl tells Matthew that he needs a batter and that he has chosen Matthew. Matthew is obviously very confused. Does a better job of Jessica portraying his confusion here. In particular, as the way Carl acts, he constantly bamboozles Matthew to such a point that Matthew can't take a moment to collect himself and understand what's going on. It's just constantly, you need to do this, kid, you need to do that, and pushing him and shoving him and stuff like that. Particularly what confuses him is that he can hear people, but there's nobody actually at the game. So the stands are empty, but we can hear the sound of people cheering and stuff like that. I get this. This is pure budgetary issue. You could not afford to pay a ton of extras and bring them in to fill the seats. How do you get around that? By doing it almost like a ghostly voice thing. It's that smart thinking.
Yeah, also that it's clear as day that they're just reusing the same baseball field set that they used for the previous little match that they had. And yeah, I'm onto them on that. But like you said, it's smart because they've made this dark and stuff. So yeah, you see it in a different light, and yeah, it's clever, you know. And of course, they got you got a budget and stuff, so don't want to have another werewolf skin situation, do they?
No, we do not. We do not. We also see that Carl is also the announcer, hilariously, and the singer of the Carlsville National Anthem. And honestly, this sequence of events, we're gonna, you know, we keep coming back to it, but my God, is he having fun?
Wears a lot of different hats, that Carl, doesn't he?
Yes.
Doesn't he, really?
Our national anthem.
Carlsville, Carlsville, though you may be small, Carlsville, Carlsville, we especially love you.
It gets me every time.
As the coach, he then tells Matthew he's up the plane, and the object of the game is simply to get home. So, you know, kind of what baseball rules tied into the fact that, hey, if you get there, you'll also be able to go home. It's a literal and figurative sense.
Yeah, I don't know how you feel about this whole segment involving the baseball thing and him having to get home and whatnot, other than Carl's performance, which is obviously interesting and entertaining. But I just didn't find this that compelling, this whole baseball scene. I thought it dragged quite a bit. And, you know, performances are good, but it's spot on the whole, yeah, kind of bored me a bit.
Agreed, and also I agree with everything you said there. The joy comes from the cutting back to the different variations of Carl, but Matthew Matthew plays it as best as he can. But my biggest issue as to why it doesn't really work for me is because the threats that come up are so minor and stupid at times. Particularly one I will highlight that each time a new threat came up on his route to going home, I just was like, oh, that's shit. That's just terrible. You couldn't come up with something better.
I think you just highlighted what is the major issue with all three of those episodes, and that is the lack of genuine threat throughout all of them. Because Carl, he just is quite tame, and that's the problem.
I would say the last part of this episode has the best threat of all, but obviously we'll get to that and my issues surrounding that to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Obviously, all Matthew is trying to do is ask questions. Where are the other players? What's going on? What do I need to do? And so on. But as the coach, he tells him not to worry and just get himself home. A ball machine rises out of the ground and Matthew gets ready to bat. But it's quite fast, so obviously he strikes twice, 2 strikes. Then the third ball stops right before him, allowing him to hit it and run. So they kind of helped him out here. Carl helped him out by literally stopping the ball in front of him, allowing him to hit it. Yeah, it's not a great effect, but what are you going to do?
But why? Why is he helping him?
I started to wonder if, like, it was never really about anything and just having fun. It was fun to him, I guess, tormenting them, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I've got this theory that Carl is actually just super lonely in this town of, like, you know, and that's why he brings people in, and he like kind of doesn't really like, you know, he scares them a little bit, but nothing too threatening, doesn't really hurt them, and then he's kind of upset almost when they leave, and he gives them avenues to leave. Like, yeah, I just kind of got a feeling of loneliness from Carl, actually, the way where he acts. Going a bit deep on it.
Yeah, no, but we've done this in other episodes. Sometimes finding a little bit of nuance in what you feel about it is more important than just experiencing and going, oh, well, it was nothing major or it ain't
That's
interesting.
that's just my way of trying to look at it in a logical sense, other than he's just a complete idiot, I guess.
That is the most sensible answer. But yeah, so basically Matthew starts to run and the base pad starts to move. And Matthew is only able to get on first base by pretending to walk away, then diving on it. This is an early example of where, what's the point? Like, what is this whole base pad moving thing? But also, like, it's what annoys me is it's not really a game because nobody's trying to get him out. There's the problem for me. It's like, well, there's no stakes here because he's trying to get on the base pad to get to the next stage, like a level almost, but there's nobody trying to get him out. Like, do you know what I mean? He's hitting the ball, but where there's no one's pitching to try and, you know, so what's the point of him even bothering to get on it? Why doesn't he just go to the home base and see what happens?
Yeah, and unlike in the previous episode with the lemon stand and everything, I got the message there, I got the way going for, but I just didn't really understand what the message was here with this whole baseball thing. Yeah, what was it? What are they trying to say? He should stop playing baseball just because, you know, I don't know. I just didn't get it.
I don't think there is one when it comes down to this part of it, because ultimately he's bad at baseball and he's having to play baseball now for his life, which is something Carl, as the coach, says to him.
Harrison's having a little trouble getting down the line. Harrison made it to first. Only 3 more bases to go.
This is when Matthew finally realizes Carl is actually trying to hurt him. And Carl once again points out, all you got to do is go home. So Matthew starts to slowly edge towards the second pad, but his feet are captured on the base and a load of cardboard cutouts of him appear next to him. Carl, now dressed as a carnival showman, declares that a prize can be won. The cutouts of Matthew start to move past the ball machine as the boy tries to avoid getting hit. But the machine, whatever reason, isn't really aiming at him. It just keeps hitting the cardboard cutouts. You know, it's one of those, oh, it's so threatening, but not really. As Matthew frees himself by getting out of his shoes and the machine then just vanishes. Yeah. Level 2.
Step right up, be the boy and win a prize.
He then refuses to continue to play, which gets a chorus of boos from the invisible crowd. Carl makes the base pad under him disappear, so Matthew starts to run to the next one. On his way, the ground splits open to reveal lava and a thin walkway, and Matthew has no choice but to walk across it carefully. When he makes it across and arrives at third base. Now, this here is what I meant when I said about, like, just this is so dumb. First off, it looks like shit. It looks like shit. But not only that as well, they've gone with an angle with the camera that shows you, oh, look, here's a hole with lava and a walkway. All he has to do is walk around it. It's not like it's the whole field. You can literally see the green around it. Walk around it, you idiot. Why are you going across the thin walkway? Stupid.
Yep.
Matthew demands to know why Carl won't let him go home, and Carl tells him that he's almost there. Matthew points out that it's not a proper baseball game without other players, which turns out to be a mistake as Carl unleashes a new player from the opposite team, a pair of monsters. Kind of got that makeup that makes them look like they belong of One Day at Horrorland.
Yeah, I can see that.
We then get a dumb piggy in the middle style thing as Matthew tries to avoid being got out, because now we're doing that. And this goes on for way too long, until finally the ball is dropped, begins to hover around Matthew, revealing that it's alive now and starts to chase him. Yeah, it's descended into quite nonsensical.
I thought the effect of the ball, you know, with the teeth stuff, that looked pretty decent. But yeah, it was at this moment that I was watching the episode and I caught the runtime and I was like, oh, this is the whole thing. This is what the whole episode is, pretty much, and it's coming to an end pretty soon. Which, yeah, just disappointing, really.
Agreed, absolutely. Because, of course, Matthew was able to escape, make it home, and results in him coming out and landing on his bed. Looking over the model, the toothy baseball then comes out briefly to attack him, but then goes back. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the rules. I can't understand it because I don't know what the rules are around this bloody model town. Exhausted. Matthew falls asleep. Go on, sorry.
I was going to say, like, I understand in the first episode her escaping through the phone because there is almost like a physical connection there between phone lines. You know, there's a connection. But here, he escapes through making it to the home plate. I get the metaphor of him making it home. You know, but why does that get him home? Why does Carl set it up that way? Why does he want to let him escape? Blah blah blah.
Yep. It's that. Why does Carl give them a chance? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Also, what happened if how could he fail in this situation, and what were the consequences of failure?
Yeah, because the last part of this trilogy will give you consequences, or at least what Carl's goal is, apparently. But that goal, he doesn't seem to apply to either Jessica or Matthew in these first two parts. And that will affect the third one as well.
Yeah, it's almost just like he's screwing around, having fun in these first episodes, and then I guess his patience wears thin in the third one, and that's when he goes to his real goal.
But then, you know what? Let's move on. I was going to keep over-analyzing the whys in the house. So yeah, Matthew, exhausted, falls asleep in his bed and wakes up to knocking on his door. It's his mother with Jessica, who has come over to apologize for ripping him off over the cards. So we're tying back to this and her change of heart. She then sees the town and they discuss their shared experiences. She tells him what happened to her. He tells her what happened to him. And they figure, you know what, let's destroy this. They go to the garage to get some tools, but past Todd, who is looking through the mail. And we see he's got a letter that says he's a grand prize winner, but it's come from Carlsville. Yeah, okay, we're going to do it again. How, why, what?
Don't know. How's he sending things outside of the town now? Just, what are your powers, Carl? Tell us.
Yes, indeed. He opens it up and it tells him that it has to come to Carlsville to claim. Wondering where it is, he hears music coming from the model town and he looks over it. He drops the leaflet, which floats down into Carl's hand. That is a really well done effect from the top of dropping the leaflet to then going under Carl. He just reaches up and it lands in his hat. Good stuff.
Yeah, it's cool.
Special delivery! We have a winner!
And then Todd is sucked into the town and we see the population counter go up by 1. And yeah, I don't get it. Why is he sucked into the town? He didn't touch anything.
Not a clue. I guess there's a connection between them through the leaflet, maybe. But yeah, I don't know.
Either do I. And obviously that leads us into the third part, which, whereas the first two had kind of pun names, inspired stuff, episode 3 just goes for Escape from Carlsville. So, oh, that's disappointing. Where's the pun?
Yeah, because escaping from Carlsville has been so hard so far.
Of course, again, directed by William Fruitt and written by Billy Brown and Dan Angel. This is the third part of the Carlsville story of Trilogy. All the same cast, and we begin in Carlsville. Todd is wandering the streets, wondering where everyone is. Of course, he is then randomly accosted by a marching band, as you do. Along comes Carl in an expensive top-down car as the townspeople start arriving. Everyone cheers when Todd is declared the grand prize winner. Carl then reveals where he is and lifts him up into the car, where he's given a kiss by, I like this touch, Miss Carlsville.
Funny. But it should have just been also him, dressed up.
They missed the trick, right? I thought that too. They missed the trick by not doing that.
Definitely.
Where am I?
You're in Carlsville, my boy. And this is your day. So, come on in.
Congratulations.
And let's hit the show on the road.
The band starts up again, and Todd is now part of the parade where Carl is waving to the crowd from the car. Miss Carswell shows Todd how to wave like royalty for some reason, as the crowd cheers, throwing streamers and confetti. And when I say wave like royalty, I mean that weird hand movement.
The Queen's wave.
Yes, the
does it
Queen's
or
wave.
whatever.
Meanwhile, in Matthew's room, he and Jessica discover the letter, and she notices that the population has changed, and they realize that Todd is inside. I don't know, maybe she must have paid attention to the population in her episode, but she seems to notice it's gone from 100 to 101.
No, that's too far, man. I'm calling absolute BS on her remembering that it said population 100. I accept so many things in Goosebumps, but that one thing right there, I can't have it. I can't have it, man.
Oh, very good. In the town, Todd is to be presented with the grand prize and gives a speech to the town about being glad he won. The president of Carlco then arrives. It's Carl!
Carl!
While all this is happening, Jessica and Matthew are debating if they should go inside the town to get him back. Todd is then taken inside the HQ of Carlco. Carl gives a sinister look as he goes in, just to make sure we know that there's villainous intent, as if we haven't watched the other 2 episodes and realize he's a villain, and you might randomly be watching part 3, and the band comes to a stop, so you know something bad is coming. Well, Goosebumps bad, not actual bad.
I'd like to introduce you to the president of Carlco Enterprises.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Carl.
Inside, it's a bit of a creepy looking place with people who do look more like models than anyone else. I do like the effect of this look because they still look human, but they've kind of got this covering on them that gives them a plastic sheen. I think it's a good look.
Yeah, it just made me wonder, like, why they looked that way compared to the other more humanoid looking people. Like, again, I'm just thinking too much. That's my biggest fault.
I do have a theory though around this. So Carl has powers, obviously, has abilities and so on, and I suspect his powers involve him at being able to almost add glamour to his people. The people that Carlsville started off as one, and Carlsville over the years he's sucked people in and kept them. This is why its population is a certain thing, and he has to turn them into models for them to permanently stay in Carlsville. But when he requires other people to come in, he obviously has to pretend and give the people and himself a look like more human to make them feel at ease. Because immediately, if you saw them and they looked like models, you'd freak out. And I think that's part of his powers. It doesn't answer where and how these powers are, where the limitations are, but it's the best explanation I have.
Are you excited, Todd?
Yeah, but I just wish I knew what I want.
You'll find out soon enough.
Will I get home in time for dinner?
After you see your prize, you won't even be thinking about dinner.
Yeah, that's fair. But also, a Carlsville origin story sounds really interesting. When he started out
Okay.
as the first. Oh, that sounds good, man. I want to see that.
Yeah, so basically, Carl now reveals that the grand prize is citizenship, and he's been made into one of them. Obviously, Todd is notably unimpressed, and Carl is a little bit hurt and annoyed by the lack of gratitude. He does seem to think that Todd should be grateful for being made into a citizen.
You know, it'd be really funny if one time in these type of scenarios where the villain's like, I'm going to take you and transform you into one of us, and you're going to have to stay here, and the person was like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just like,
sounds
oh,
good.
Cool. Yeah, I quite like the idea of living here.
Free lemonade, you seem like a great guy. Everyone seems happy here. Let's do it.
That would be quite a twist. And then there's the end credits roll. Just like, yep, all right.
Yeah. Sounds good.
A big machine is now revealed, and this will turn Todd plastic. Meanwhile, Matthew and Jessica, who have just been non-stop talking, try to get in via the routes they did previously, but it doesn't work. So now we get this idea that Carl has to either be involved in some way. You can't just touch it and get sucked in. Carl takes a bite out of a bowl of fruit before activating the machine, which turns him into plastic, which he shows Todd what the machine will do, which of course scares Todd. Meanwhile, Jessica now comes up with the idea of changing the population number, which sees her sucked into the town. So that works. Just change the number, and now she's in the town as well.
Also, I just have to again say this is something that really did kind of annoy me as well, because it's the whole scene where they're discussing about how they could go and tell the parents about the situation and blah blah blah. And obviously that's fair. They do say obviously they probably think they're insane, which is fine. But once they figure out a way into the town, which she goes in first and he's left by himself, he could then go get the parents and like show it and prove to them kind of thing. But he
Yeah.
doesn't need to put himself in there as well, which is they don't know if they're gonna be able to escape again. So yeah, terrible idea. And it just kind of annoyed me because it's like this is a situation where logically they've established the parents exist and even some of them are decent parents that are not absent, which is the case in many Goosebumps episodes. So and they even mention the possibility of going to speak to them about it, but then they just throw that out the window. But it's like there's ways they could prove this is real to the parents. Yeah.
I think what I can live with that because hey, Goosebumps. But where I did get annoyed is something you did actually highlight, which is the fact that they don't actually have an escape plan here. And what annoys me about that is you can't say, oh, they're desperate. They spend ages. I've like kind of skipped past it, but we cut back to them many times talking and discussing their plan here and how they're going to get in and what they're going to do. But none of that involves an escape route.
Also, I like how they just assume that the little brother is completely fine because they know Carl is like a massive whore for stalling. So
yeah, whore for stalling. Yeah, because basically that's what he does now. As Todd has been prepared to be changed into plastic, Carl does like to talk a bit here and drag this one out, which allows Matthew the time to also get in the town. He is a talker here.
Turn the kid to plastic, Carl. God damn it. Shut up.
Indeed. Todd is eventually strapped down, and it looks like it's all over him as Jessica and Matthew wonder where everyone is. They do find a flyer with his picture declaring him as the prize winner. As Carl sets about activating the machine, the other two follow the confetti trail in the hope of finding him. There's even more teasing from Carl as he offers Todd a color choice. And this is kind of like I said, it's just dragging its heels because we know we need to get to a point. And Matthew and Jessica then arrive outside Carl and see the remains of parade. Inside, they're still messing around as Matthew and Jessica find a basement window to sneak in. Todd tries to pay Carl off, but he reveals he doesn't want money, he wants power, and in Carlsville, he is king. He also reveals that turning people into plastic is a hobby. And he's like, you know what? None of this makes sense, whatever, but I love Carl. I love the actor. He is the best thing about this 3 episodes.
I want power. In Carlsville, I'm king. King Carl of Carlsville. It's got a nice ring to it, don't you think?
But why do you want to turn me into plastic?
It's a hobby. Everyone needs a hobby.
Yeah, without him, yeah, it'd be really, really pretty bad, but he elevates it for sure.
Agreed. Matthew and Jessica start to hear Todd as they sneak around. From up high, they see Carl tease Todd, and Matthew starts to hit random buttons on a machine nearby to halt it. Great idea. God forbid you actually hit one that activates it, you freaking melon. Just, don't know why that made me so mad, but it's just so stupid. You don't know what this machine is. You're gonna, oh, stop it. You can fucking activate it.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
It doesn't matter, though, because Carl stops the process to tease Todd again. And even I wrote here, get on with it, Carl, man. This is too much. And his delaying has given Matthew and Jessica the chance to do the more sensible thing than hammering buttons, pull wiring out, which will certainly break the machine, which it does. It breaks in a shower of sparks. Do love a bit of sparks sometimes.
They whipped out the sparklers. Very, very fancy.
Everyone runs away in fear except Carl, who sees Matthew and Jessica rescue Todd. For some reason, we now cut back to the parents talking about the model town being a wholesome toy. I was like, is that like just a joke? It felt so random.
But holy shit, one of the parents actually says the words, "Where are the kids?" I believe it's the father, and I almost lost it. I couldn't believe it. It's monumental. This must be like a joke. It must be a joke because it's not written by R.L. Stine. They must have known how he writes parents in all his stories as being the biggest morons and psychotic weirdos in the world. and they wrote in a parent asking, "Where are they? Like, where are our kids?" I just couldn't believe it.
This is what happens when you have watched 60 odd episodes of Goosebumps in a row for this series. These moments, these things we picked up. This is the fun of being at this late stage of the show overall, is that we find entertainment in things that are just not meant to be, because we've watched them in so, you know, in order and so consistently that, yeah, you're absolutely right. It is such a rare thing to have a parent wonder if their kids are okay or where they are.
Yeah, that's no other parent throughout Goosebumps has ever wondered that question. Even though they're going through the most horrific shit, they're never curious where they may be, and that just
Indeed.
I can't believe it.
We are at the end here, though, as Jessica and Matthew take Todd to their previous exits, but each time Carl is waiting for them as the townspeople give chase and surround them on the baseball field. Meanwhile, back in the real world, the mother is hoovering the bedroom, and the noise can be heard in the town, much to Carl's annoyance. So are you ready for an extremely wacky, confusing rules ending? Because, I mean, all the rules have been weird anyway, but this just knocks it out of the park. Baseball pun.
Just one more thing to add, like the scene where Carl is blocking the phone from the getting to it. That must indicate that phone is an exit route out of the thing. So maybe one thing, Carl should get rid of that phone. Might be a good idea. Doesn't people escaping. But two,
I was going to say, just on that, I don't think that's it. I just think it's Carl knowing exactly where they were going to go. So he went there to...
That's true, that's true.
Yeah.
But assuming, let's say, it is an exit route, and they all kind of run up to the phone because that's what they're going for, and he blocks it off, obviously. I know they're kids, obviously, but he is just one man. Just kick that phone in the plastic balls and grab the phone, man. Come on.
Very good. You know, all three of them, yeah, you could argue, and they're not young children, so they probably could overpower him briefly.
Yeah, definitely.
On the baseball field, he orders the townspeople to chain the kids up, and seemingly out of options, they are grabbed. The hoovering, though, is about to come into play now, as attempting to have a conversation with her husband, the mother is distracted and holds the hoover over the football field, sucking up the town's people. It is like, oh, okay, this is quite something. How powerful is that fucking hoover?
Also, from a certain perspective, it is quite horrific, really, because these are seemingly living. I mean, they were people that are transformed into plastic, so it's quite horrifying seeing them all get horrifically murdered by her vacuuming. Also, I don't know if you've seen it, but I got serious Honey, I Shrunk the Kids vibes from this scene. Very similar effects of her hoovering and sucking things up in that movie. Yeah.
Oh, of course, and this goes post that for sure. The kids can hold Ivan a hole into the fence, but realize being sucked out by the hoover might be their only chance to escape. So they head back to Main Street, where it is currently being held over. So apparently the mother, not only unaware that she's holding it over the model town, which, you know, if you've ever had a hoover, you'd notice you were holding it in the air, but is moving it across the fucking town, because now it's in a different place. Yeah, you know what? We're at the end. I'm willing to accept anything, but this is stretching my imagination a little far.
How did they go from where are the kids to her being like, you know what? Let's vacuum.
True.
Yeah.
But Carl's not done yet, though, and follows them with a certain degree of nonchalance. It does work, though. The plan does work, and the kids are sucked out by the hoover and appear safe in the room. Whatever, man. I'm going to presume now that as soon as you're out of a certain, like the model town has an aura around it, and once you pass beyond that boundary, you just turn back to normal. Their sudden arrival results in the model town, though, being knocked over and damaged, and the kids quickly kick the parents out on the promise of cleaning it up. They then start looking through the pieces for any remaining townsfolk. That night, because they've been just cut, they are burning the town in the fire and think they have Carl too. And I was like, wow, this is a really dark scene. You're burning them, knowing that you're killing. That one burning looks like Carl. I'm like, oh, is that a little bit twisted?
It is a little bit, but I do appreciate that at least they now are burning it, unlike before where it was just dumped at the curb. So they've learned something. They learned something.
They do, but they are wrong, as we see a miniature Carl come falling out of the Hoover, and he laughs maniacally to wrap up the Chillogy Trilogy. That's the third and final episode. Overall, it's fun for one reason and one reason only, which is Carlsville, and the idea behind it. How it plays out is nonsensical, stupid at times, and annoying. Many different points throughout it. The main cast, the kids and all that, I like how it all connects up nicely together, even if how they get there doesn't make, is stretching my imagination. It doesn't feel like it should have been a trilogy. It probably feels like we could have been tighter, particularly as this third episode has a lot of filler, and this could have been maybe a longer Goosebumps or just a two-parter overall that combined the two things. But we've watched worse overall. Like, considering it's 3 episodes in one part of a story, we've watched single episodes that have dragged more than Trilogy did for me personally.
Yeah, I mean, you've pretty much nailed it already, but I agree. They're a fun few episodes, but and I say fun because I don't really think it delivers much in the scares department, other than there's a few creepy scenes, maybe the pig being chased, and that I can't really think of too many more actually. But
no, there really isn't.
Yeah, I think that's why when I think back about these episodes, watching them as like a kid, I always thought it'd be kind of cool to experience what they did, getting shrunk down, going to Carlsville, because they never really get hurt in any way, and they escape with ease each time, which is like I said, a big issue I thought throughout the entire 3 episodes, is that Carl is all talk, which is just disappointing. I know there's not much they can really have him do in terms of hurting them. You don't really see kids get actually hurt much in Goosebumps episodes, but yeah, he just doesn't really do anything to them in any way. Yeah, I was actually shocked also there wasn't some kind of twist at the end where maybe that was revealed that the little boy was turned to plastic or something, because normally you always get a twist in the Goosebumps, but it kind of just ends. Obviously, the twist is Carl, I suppose, being loose, but that seems kind of pointless to me, because what is he going to do? He's so small, and obviously we don't really know what his powers are exactly, and there's no follow-up anyway, so he never really gets to explore it, so kind of pointless.
I would have changed one thing about the ending, which is I would have focused on the Hoover and then drifted out to the outside to reveal Carl, human sized, because he grew human as well when he came out, standing outside the house watching it. And then he can still laugh maniacally, but that at least would have had a little bit more like, oh, that's serious. Because you're right, a miniature version of Carl, oh no, pick him up and destroy him. Yeah, whatever. That's Trilogy. That is the trilogy. You got any thoughts and you know what to do? Let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please help us out by giving us a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button. If you really liked what you saw, consider donating to keep the website and channel running by buying us a coffee via our coffee page or picking up some merch from our Big Cartel store. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as via our social media, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, as well as listen to our interviews via SoundCloud, Apple Music and Spotify. Just search for GBHBL. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?